Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Indigo Doors. I'm Wendy Fournier, and I'm here today to kind of talk to you guys about a painting I just painted probably about a month ago. And this painting was created with the intent to help us connect with our higher selves and with the intention to kind of help us connect to that space where everything is possible, in that creative space. So it's extremely multidimensional, and it really has helped me understand how things work when creating, and how we as human beings and as souls kind of create mirrors. And when I say mirrors, I kind of mean lessons, like how we create what it is that we want to learn, and then it actually manifests and develops into physical reality, and people start showing us the lessons and such. So I'll just kind of start with the painting. I've called it Mirrors, and you can see here how just right away when you look at it, it has this almost mystical, very almost fairy-esque kind of energy to it. When I first began this painting, like I've mentioned in other videos, I just kind of channel, right? So I'm just kind of shown what to do, and as I'm doing it, they're kind of explaining why. But even like that is such a linear process, but it's like multidimensional, meaning there's lots of things going on in my head at the same time. Some of you really understand what I'm talking about, like, you know, almost like when you're talking to somebody physically, like your friend or your sister, somebody you're close to, and then you're also picking up on, like, your brain is like a supercomputer, right? So you're as they're talking, you're remembering dreams, or you're remembering what's going on. You're listening to them, but there's so much more going on, truly, that our brain can kind of pick up on. So that's kind of what is going on here when I'm painting. So you can really, this is about feeling. This painting is truly about feeling and entering into the space. The tree represented here is about this, like our spiritual tree. It's representative of our Akashic. It's like our spiritual power tree. Many different cultures have mentioned a tree of knowledge, let's say, but we all have a tree of knowledge. And it's just symbolic of the keeper of all of our lives, all of our future, past. It's like it's timeless. In this way, it's almost like the colors of our soul. And within this tree, you know, there's a bigger understanding of the process of what and why we want to learn what we came here to learn. And that's truly, just as a side note, why we should never be judging any human being. One, because we don't fully understand what it is that they came here to learn, but also the people that we think that are maybe the least conscious, let's say, or the most dysfunctional. They might have had lives where they were extremely aware and ascended, because they just came here to learn what it's like to maybe move through more density, or maybe it's all in disguise, truly. And I feel like that's some of the symbolism with even the biblical references is of like angels and higher beings coming through as homeless people. And it's truly the ones that have come here with heavier things or heavier lessons and burdens that have the highest potential for light, right? So in that way, how honored we truly are, and how we really just need to shift our perspective a little bit on that. But here in this painting, so you have this tree that's holding all of your energy, and this painting's meant to kind of connect you with yours, right? So the space where you're complete, right? Where you have in your Akashic parts of you that have understood what it's like to live extravagantly, where financial abundance was everywhere, where all your needs were met in that way, right? And you also have some lives, maybe as kind of featured here with these pods, where maybe financial abundance was hard for you. So this tree kind of represents tapping into all that is, where everything is possible, right? And so in this way, if we can all just kind of tap into that. So let's say you didn't have good parents. You could tap into a part of yourself that did have good parents, right? So it's allowing us to kind of reach beyond what's happening in this time frame, right? Not as like a bypassing, right? Not as like a bypassing of the lesson, but in essence that we have everything that we need to heal. We have everything we need to remember our wholeness is truly what it is. So within this space, though I don't know all of the answers by any means, it's within this space of this tree, we kind of figure out what it is that we want to learn, right? What it is that we want to kind of work through. Like I want to learn forgiveness, or I want to learn overcoming physical, I want to know what it's like to heal my body, right? But with that, right, your body's going to have to break down. So then it's like, how do I heal my body, right? So how do we learn these lessons? But in this painting specifically, it talks about how and why are mirrors created. So it's like, so once we decide what it is that we want to learn, let's say we want to learn about worth, right? So there's all these little souls. There's something that goes on. They were sharing with me that within this painting that there's something that goes on energetically within our bodies. It's like how light works. As soon as we decide that, it's like instantaneous, because we're all so connected and we're all unified, all connected into one. Instantly, people sense that on some level, right? Subconsciously, or it's not even conscious. It's just part of our being as part of this unity, and they're like, okay, I'll help you, right? So the ones that are closest to our circle, they can really help us, right? They trigger us, they make us feel, or we feel like they make us feel like we're inadequate or not worthy or ugly or whatever it is, right? We have all these triggers. And in this way, there is just beautifully helping you. So this painting, in this energy, is just like we chose it. So there's a sense of responsibility. It's like, remember, we chose all of these things that we're going through. And what is it that I'm trying to learn? And everyone and everything that's going on in my reality is just a beautiful help, because they're all helping me. It's all divinely guided. Everything that's happening to us, even if somebody cuts us off on the road, is perfect, right? Maybe it's waking us up. Maybe it triggers us to feeling unsafe. All of these things. So in this way, you can notice these are like cocoons, right? So it's almost like this idea of birthing, right? Or these things that have been birthed. But then you see this really large orange cocoon looking thing, but it's also representative of the creative force. So how we it's the second chakra, right? The sacral chakra, where it is the color orange. So it's creativity, sexuality, and it's how things are born, right? In this color orange. And when it actually births into the physical reality, what that looks like. And that there in the red is supposed to be representative of the mirror itself. But also within this cocoon, it was meant to kind of represent the shape of like a shell, which is the golden mean, which is like this universal math measurement that's found throughout natural reality. Just another part of the divine guidance. Like everything is perfectly created, meaning there's no accidents. So that's why this orange cocoon or shell is a little bit different, because it's supposed to represent that, the perfection, the divine perfection in everything that's manifested. And then you see the 3 circles beyond that, because as we go through this, the more conscious we become. Well, let's talk about when we're not conscious, right? Or conscious means just aware of our parts. That's all. And we're continually becoming more and more and more conscious, right? We're becoming more and more and more of the light. It's not a race. It truly is, what is it you're wanting to experience, right? So in this way, the more you're unaware of what is kind of ruling your decisions, right? So this tree represents all of these choices and things that we have to manifest. So before we're conscious of it, it just kind of runs into kind of a default. This is what they were telling me. It kind of runs into a default where it's just all divinely guided, like what you chose before you came here. But as we become conscious, right, and we start looking at things and we start consciously choosing, because that was a huge thing. They want us to start consciously choosing, like choosing, like, do you like this? Do you want this, right? Do you want this in your life? Do you, like, if you're constantly choosing relationships that are hurtful, do you at one point then say, hey, I want a loving relationship, right? I want to be surrounded by people that love and support me. I'm going to start loving and supporting myself. I didn't realize how much I must not love and support myself, right? So once you start taking responsibility and then you start choosing your will. So this is partly about, it's about kind of this process. So before we actually start consciously choosing, there's a default. So we start, right, there's this default lessons that come in, like I chose to deal with abuse, right? I've learned to I came in to learn about forgiveness. Or there's so many different lessons, right? But you understand what I'm saying. So as we become conscious, then my will and what I'm choosing, what mirrors I'm choosing become my choice, because there's a sense of responsibility. So the step in there is about responsibility, and they wanted me to really kind of express that. So once we start taking responsibility that we actually get to choose, we're connecting our will with that of our higher selves, right? And our higher selves is everything that is supportive and loving towards us, right? Everything is all good. Like meaning our thoughts are aligned with that. Like we love ourselves and we allow everything that comes up emotionally. We support it and we love it, whatever it is that comes up. And we're like, I want to experience this. And that's where we start creating different kinds of mirrors. And that's what the three circles there are representative of, is the Holy Trinity. But the Holy Trinity in a way where my will, so I'm very present, over time I become very present with myself, and I understand who I am, right? And that takes a long time. I'm still working through those things. So the first step is becoming very present in our hearts, meaning understanding why I feel the way that I do. I become less reactive and more responsive. And once I become aware of that, I begin to align my will, which are my choices and decisions, with my higher self. And that the higher self is that I'm loved dearly, with no conditions, right? I'm loved exactly how I am right now. So my choices are now aligned with that, meaning, like, do I want to eat that food for me that my body doesn't really like? No, I don't want to do that anymore, right? So my choices are now all about loving the self. Do I want to put myself in a situation where I'm very uncomfortable, right? And those take sometimes months to get to the place where you create boundaries, right? We talk about that in a lot of other videos, so you can kind of check that out. But the Holy Trinity is about being present, understanding ourselves, and allowing whatever comes up and loving that. And we begin to align our choices and decisions with the higher self. And by doing that, the other part of the Trinity is connecting with our future self, the part of ourselves that is wise and where we're headed. So it becomes like this circle. And it's a lot more complicated, and there's a lot of other layers, but in simplified terms, that's kind of what it is. Running through this tree is, as you see, is this river, and this river is abundance. It's this never-ending sustenance that Spirit gives us, the universe gives us, that we're a part of. It's a part of this cleansing, right? It's running through the tree, so there's this other dimension of reality where all of our needs are met and everything is possible, and the river is kind of representative of that. As you see here too, the river is very calm, and it's very peaceful, and that comes with the wisdom of honoring the self, right? And allowing whatever comes up and loving that. And you see in the very front, you see this like monster kind of being. And when I first started painting this, I had kind of mixed reactions to it, right? Like, it was kind of grotesque to me, and I didn't fully understand what they wanted. At first, I really didn't understand what they wanted to show with this. But what it is, so I'd watch your reaction to it. You know, does it bother you? This is the shadow self, right? This monster, and it has a purpose. And they really were trying to show that there's this regurgitation or this part of assimilation of this process that is necessary. Just like the fall and the winter is necessary in our seasons, right? We have to go to the bathroom, right? There is a purpose, a beautiful, amazing, loving purpose to all of these things that we might associate with kind of being gross, and it's just it's like the letting go of, and the digestion and the assimilation of it. So this monster being thing is an intricate part of the foundation of this tree. Right? So it's really kind of asking us, like, what are we assimilating? What are we eating? What are we choosing? So it's, what are we choosing to put into our thoughts? What are we choosing to put into our physical bodies? What are we choosing to put into in our reality? Do we see through the eyes of love? Can we look at that monster and even our darkness, our own anger or sadness? Do we see that as bad, right? Because there is no such thing, right? There's no such thing as bad. That's just kind of like an old, almost egoic way of responding to things. And and this is part of this new fifth dimensional being where we truly understand, and I'm kind of like telling you, once you're through this, we'll totally see the love in all of our darkness, right? We see it's functioning. But in that today, I just want us to kind of think about that. Like, how do we really respond? Do we really see fear and anger and sadness and desperation? Do we see them as bad things? I mean, in our culture, we kind of do, right? And that's kind of what we're waking up to, right? But they're really not bad. They actually have a function, almost like magnets, right? Where there's a positive and negative charge. One's not better than the other, it just is, right? One's positive, one's negative, and it helps things move. And there's a lot of other things with magnetism we don't understand. Magnetism's kind of an interesting thing that just kind of exists, right? We don't really understand where it comes from or why. And that's something I feel like science will get a better handle of. Anyways, in this way, that's kind of how these emotions are. Right? Just like magnetism. It's like they're meant to help us move and expand energetically. It's part of the process of kind of becoming and expanding and holding more light. So in this way, I just invite you to start looking at those things differently. So as things are coming up for you, right, as this monster shows up, and it is the very forefront of the painting, right? Where is it, what is it that you're choosing to look at? What is it that you're choosing to learn right now? And yeah, I can feel you guys are getting that. Like, interesting, right? Because we're truly all on the path of enlightenment, right? So in that way, what are we being asked, our higher selves, right? Because everything's divinely guided. If you're experiencing some of these things, what are you being asked to look at, right? What are you being asked to truly love and integrate? Integrate truly just means love. So if you hear all that mumbo jumbo out there, we're going to integrate all of our parts. It just means loving. Like, what are you being asked to not separate from? Like, hey, I don't like that part. I want to cut out that anger, or I want to cut out that sadness. Who wants that? But instead, this is a new way of being, right? You're being asked to be like, I'm sad. What is that about? What part of me is wanting to be heard? Right? And it's such an important part of this whole process, of this almost circle. Like Native Americans would be like, the great circle in this process of becoming. To me, it almost would be more of like a spiral. But, and so today, the magic of that monster, right? The monster being those darker emotions or things that we're being asked to look at. And once we truly start loving those parts, right, then our will is connected to our higher self. And then we can create anything and everything we've ever wanted. Do you understand? So the magic of that, and that's really what this painting is about, is the magic of how we create a reality and kind of why, right? Kind of why. You can kind of sense that, like there's a higher purpose. And just loving ourselves, truly what it comes down to is so simple, right? But not always easy. So enjoy this painting. If you would love a print, just message us and we'll see if we can send it out to you. It really is kind of meant to help embody that whole process. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. There is symbolism in the color and all of that stuff. So you could look up, Google, like, the spiritual meaning of orange and blue and whatever's responding to you, because this painting's multidimensional, meaning it's meant to interact with you specifically. I know, crazy, right? So whatever's happening to you, however you feel about it, that's what's important for you and your experience. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please hit like, subscribe, subscribe. Yeah, we have more in store for you. So take care, much love until then. Next time anyways. Bye.